The train was moving slowly across a wide stretch of dry land, far away from cities and towns. The sun had already set, and darkness spread across the horizon. Only the faint glow of the moon and the train's interior lights gave comfort to those inside. It was not a crowded train. Many passengers had already left at earlier stops, leaving behind only a few scattered travelers. The night felt strangely quiet, and every sound of the train wheels echoed more loudly in the silence. Aaron sat near the middle of one of the cars, his backpack on the seat beside him. He had chosen this car because it was emptier than the others, and he liked the calm. He was not a man who enjoyed noise or large groups of people. The quiet gave him space to think, to rest, and to watch the world slide by outside the window. His eyes followed the dark fields, the lines of trees in the distance, and the stars slowly appearing above. Everything seemed normal, until suddenly the train gave a sharp jolt. The wheels screeched, the lights flickered, and the train came to a sudden stop. For a moment, no one spoke. Then distant voices from the other cars began to rise, questions, worries, confusion. Aaron looked out of the window again, but all he saw was empty land stretching far in every direction. There were no houses, no signs of life, only the lonely tracks and the still night. He leaned back in his seat, waiting. Trains sometimes stopped for signal issues or mechanical checks. He told himself there was no reason to worry. Yet as the minutes passed, the silence grew heavier. Most of the passengers in his car got up and moved toward the front, hoping to find someone from the train staff who could explain what was happening. Before long, the car was nearly empty. Aaron stayed behind. He felt no need to push into a crowd or demand answers. He believed that eventually the train would start again. Instead, he opened his backpack and pulled out a bottle of water. As he unscrewed the cap, he noticed something unusual. At the far end of the car, near the corner where the lights were dimmer, someone else was still seated. At first, he thought it was just another quiet passenger like him. But as his eyes adjusted, he realized this was not an ordinary traveler. The figure sat very still, almost like a statue with long arms folded across their lap. The faint glow from the window caught their face, and Aaron's heart gave a small jump. The stranger was not human. Her skin had a faint shimmer, like silver dust reflecting the moonlight. Her eyes were large, glowing faintly with a shade that seemed somewhere between blue and gray. She wore a dark robe that covered most of her figure, but the shape of her face and the delicate lines of her hands made her presence impossible to ignore. She sat apart as though afraid to be noticed, yet it was clear she had been there the whole time. Aaron blinked, unsure if his tired mind was playing tricks. But when the stranger shifted slightly and her silver eyes flicked toward him, he knew she was real. He hesitated. Should he speak? Would it be rude or even dangerous? He had never seen someone like her before, though he had read news about alien delegations visiting Earth in recent months. They were rare and most people never got close to them. Yet here, by pure chance, one was sitting in the same deserted train car as him. The silence stretched. The stranger kept her gaze low, avoiding his eyes. She looked almost uncomfortable, as if she wanted to disappear into the shadows. Aaron felt a sudden urge to ease that tension. Slowly, he lifted the bottle of water in his hand and cleared his throat softly. "Do you need some water?" he asked, his voice careful, gentle. The alien girl raised her head slightly. For a moment, she only studied him, as though trying to judge his intentions. Then, after a pause, she gave the smallest nod. Her movements were graceful, almost too precise, like every motion was carefully measured. Aaron stood, walked halfway down the aisle, and placed the bottle on the seat across from her. He didn't want to come too close or make her feel threatened. Then he stepped back and returned to his seat, watching quietly. The girl slowly reached out, her slender fingers brushing the bottle. She picked it up and studied it for a moment, as if unsure how to open it. Then, with careful effort, she twisted the cap and took a small sip. Her silver eyes softened slightly, and she gave a quiet breath that sounded almost like relief. "Thank you," she said. Her voice was soft, melodic, but her accent was unusual. Each word carried a faint echo, as if two voices spoke together. Aaron smiled faintly. "You're welcome." The silence returned, but it was different now. It was no longer heavy with distance. Instead, it carried a quiet sense of connection. Aaron found himself curious, almost drawn to her presence. Minutes passed, and the train still did not move. Somewhere in the distance, voices shouted orders, maybe workers fixing a problem. But inside this deserted car, it felt like a world apart. Finally, the girl spoke again. "You are Calm, she said, tilting her head slightly as if she were studying him. Aaron gave a small shrug. I guess I am. Worry won't help. I'm sure the train will start again. Her eyes lingered on him. Most humans hurry. They search for answers, but you... Wait, Aaron chuckled softly. Maybe I'm just lazy. To his surprise, a faint smile touched her lips. It was small, hesitant, but real. It changed her whole expression, making her seem less distant. What is your name? She asked. Aaron, he replied. And you? She hesitated. Nira. The way she spoke her own name was gentle, like a secret. Aaron repeated it softly. Nira. That's a beautiful name. She lowered her eyes as if unused to compliments. For a long time, neither of them spoke. They simply sat there in the quiet, with the soft hum of the train's cooling systems filling the air. Aaron wondered why she was here, alone, in a nearly empty car. Perhaps she had been separated from others, or maybe she preferred the quiet like he did. Whatever the reason, he felt strangely grateful. If the train had not stopped, if the passengers had not left, he would never have noticed her. The minutes stretched into nearly an hour. Yet Aaron did not feel bored. He felt awake in a way he hadn't in a long time. The deserted train car, which should have felt lonely, now felt alive. When the lights flickered again and the sound of the engine rumbled faintly, Aaron realized he had been staring at Nira without noticing. She looked back at him, her silver eyes calm, almost thoughtful. In that silent moment, a simple truth formed between them. Two strangers from different worlds, stranded together in an empty train car, had taken the first step toward something unexpected. The night outside was vast and empty, but inside a new story had quietly begun. The train still rested on the tracks, surrounded by open land and endless night. The air inside the car was cool, filled with a faint hum from the systems that kept the lights alive. Aaron sat in his seat leaning slightly forward, his eyes often drifting toward the quiet figure across from him. Nira, the alien girl, still held the water bottle in her hands. She seemed to study it carefully, turning it slowly as though the simple object held some mystery. Her silver eyes glowed faintly under the soft lights and her robe fell around her in neat folds, giving her a graceful yet distant look. Aaron had always thought of aliens as something far away. Faces on screens, stories in news reports or topics for scientists. But here she was, sitting just a few steps away, as real and present as the chair beneath him. Finally, Nira lifted her gaze. This train, she said slowly, is not like the travel machines of my world. It feels slower. Aaron smiled. Yeah, trains are not the fastest way to travel. But they're steady. People like them because they can look out the window and watch the land go by. Her head tilted slightly, a habit she seemed to have whenever she was curious. To travel and to watch, not only to arrive. Exactly, Aaron said. It's not always about the destination. Sometimes it's about the journey. Nira's lips curved faintly, though it wasn't quite a smile. It was more like she was testing the shape of a new idea. On my world, travel is efficient. Always the direct path. There is little time for watching. Aaron rested his arms on his knees, leaning forward. That sounds practical, but maybe a little boring. For the first time, Nira gave a small laugh. It was soft and quick, as though she wasn't used to laughing out loud. But it reached her eyes and Aaron felt warmth spread through the empty train car. Encouraged, he asked, So how did you end up here? On this train? Nira hesitated. Her fingers tightened slightly around the bottle and she lowered her eyes. For a moment, Aaron thought she wouldn't answer. But then she spoke, her voice quieter. I was with my group. We are here as guests of your world. We moved together, but I stepped onto the wrong path. The doors closed and I was here. Aaron imagined it, an alien delegation moving with order and purpose and this quiet girl accidentally stepping away from them. The image almost made him smile, but he didn't want to embarrass her. So you got lost, Nira nodded once. Yes, lost. She said the word carefully as if tasting it. It is not a word we use often. On my world, everything is guided. There are no mistakes. But mistakes aren't always bad, Aaron said. Sometimes they bring you to places you never expected. Like this. He gestured to the empty train car around them. Nira looked at him, her silver eyes steady. Do you believe this is a good place? Aaron met her gaze. I think so. Don't you? She didn't answer right away, but her expression softened and she no longer looked away. The silence that followed wasn't uncomfortable. It was filled with small things, the hum of the train, the faint sound of wind outside, the steady rhythm of breathing. For Aaron, it was surprising how natural it felt, sitting across from someone not human and yet feeling no fear. He leaned back against his seat. "So, Nira, tell me about your world." She hesitated again, but this time her pause was shorter. "It is different. Our skies are not dark like this. They glow with pale colors. Our cities are tall, shining, made of glass and light. Everything has order. Everyone has a purpose. Life is safe," Aaron nodded. "Sounds beautiful." "It is," she admitted, "but sometimes it feels heavy. Every word, every action is measured. There is little space for—" She searched for the right word. "Freedom." Aaron's brows lifted. "Freedom's pretty important to us. Humans don't always agree with each other, but at least we get to choose, even if we make bad choices sometimes." Nira studied him with open curiosity. "And you? Do you make bad choices?" Aaron chuckled softly. "All the time." For the first time, she smiled more clearly. It was small and gentle, but it transformed her face. She looked less like a distant guest and more like a friend. Aaron decided to share something too. "I travel a lot by train. Work takes me from city to city, but sometimes I take the longer routes just because I like the quiet. People think I'm strange for that." Nira tilted her head again. "Strange? No, curious. Curious is good," he grinned. "Thanks. I'll take that as a compliment." Their conversation moved slowly like the steady rhythm of the stopped train. They talked about small things, food, music, stories. Aaron described simple meals like bread with butter, soups made at home, and the joy of sitting with family. Nira listened with wide eyes, as if each detail was new and precious. She confessed that meals on her world were efficient, designed only for health, not for enjoyment. The idea of food as comfort was strange to her, yet she seemed fascinated by it. Aaron also spoke about music, how people wrote songs to express feelings. He hummed a soft tune, one he remembered from childhood. Nira listened intently, her head slightly bowed, her silver eyes shining. "We do not sing on my world," she said quietly. "Our voices are for words of purpose, not for feelings." "That's a shame," Aaron replied gently. "Singing makes life lighter." Nira's expression grew thoughtful, as though she were holding his words inside herself, testing their weight. As the night deepened, the lights in the train flickered again, dimming for a moment before glowing back to life. The outside world remained still, dark land under an endless sky. Inside, the two of them continued to talk, the space between them shrinking not by distance but by trust. At one point, Nira leaned back and closed her eyes briefly, as if resting. Her voice, softer than before, reached him. "Aaron, do you think your people and mine can ever understand each other?" Aaron thought for a moment. "I think it starts with small things. A drink of water, a conversation, a laugh. That's how we begin to understand." Her eyes opened and she looked at him. For the first time, she didn't seem guarded or cautious. Instead, she looked almost peaceful. "You speak simply," she said, "but your words feel true." Aaron felt his chest warm at that. He hadn't planned to say anything wise. He had just spoken from his heart. Yet it seemed to matter to her. The train remained still, but inside the deserted car something had moved forward. Two strangers from two worlds had begun to find common ground. As the hour stretched on, their voices grew softer, as though the night itself was listening. Nira told him about her first time seeing the ocean on Earth, how the waves seemed endless and alive. Aaron shared about his first time climbing a mountain and how he felt both small and free at the top. Their stories flowed like rivers meeting, different yet fitting together. By the time silence finally returned, it was no longer the silence of strangers. It was the silence of two beings who had begun to trust. Nira glanced at him one last time before resting her head against the window. "Strange," she whispered, half to herself, "but familiar." Aaron smiled softly, his eyes closing too. "Yeah," he murmured. "Strange but familiar." The night outside stretched wide and endless, but within the deserted train car a quiet bond had taken root. Fragile, gentle, and real. The train was still not moving. Hours had passed since it stopped, but the world outside remained the same. Dark fields stretching far in every direction, with only the faint moonlight painting the land. Inside the deserted car, the soft hum of the lights and the quiet breaths of its two passengers created a small world of their own. Aaron shifted in his seat, his eyes drifting often toward Nira. She sat near the window, her silver eyes reflecting the pale glow from outside. Her posture was graceful but not stiff anymore. She looked calmer than before, though there was still a kind of distance in her gaze, like she was holding many thoughts inside. Aaron felt a strange mix of curiosity and comfort. Hours ago, he had been a simple traveler on a train, just passing time. Now he was sharing the silence and words of an alien girl, someone he never expected to meet. Every glance, every word they exchanged felt meaningful in a way he couldn't explain. The lights flickered again, dimming for a moment. The car grew darker, and in that soft shadow, the atmosphere changed. It felt less like a public space and more like a secret place that belonged only to them. Aaron's heart beat a little faster, though he didn't know why. Nira turned her head toward him. "Aaron," she said quietly, "on your world you speak often of love. What is it?" The question surprised him. He leaned back, trying to think. "Love?" he repeated. She nodded slowly. "In my world, love is a word from history. It is not part of life now. Our people say it was once strong, but it created disorder, pain, mistakes. So we learned to live without it. We are told it is better this way." Aaron frowned slightly. "You don't love anyone?" Her silver eyes softened, almost sad. "No, we have respect. We have loyalty. We have duty, but not love." Aaron stared at her, his mind struggling to imagine a life without such a feeling. He thought about his own family, the warmth of their voices, the way his mother used to hum songs while cooking, the way friends laughed together over simple jokes. He thought of how love wasn't just grand gestures. It was in small acts like sharing food or staying by someone's side when they were lonely. He leaned forward, his voice quiet but certain. "Love is choosing someone. It's trust, care, and wanting their happiness even more than your own. It's not always easy. Sometimes it hurts. But it's what makes life real." Nira watched him closely, as if every word carried weight. Her lips parted slightly and she whispered, "To care more for another than for yourself." Aaron nodded. "Yes, that's love." Silence followed. She lowered her gaze, as if holding his words inside her. The train hummed softly, the only sound between them. Then, after a long pause, Nira looked back at him. "And you?" she asked. "Have you loved?" Aaron hesitated. His heart tightened as he thought about it. He remembered someone he once cared for deeply, but the connection had faded with time. Still, the memory carried warmth. "Yes," he said softly. "I have." Nira's expression shifted, almost like wonder, but also like longing. She looked away again, her silver eyes reflecting the moonlight outside. "Strange," she whispered. "So strange, this feeling." Aaron leaned back, giving her space. But inside he felt a pull toward her, a gentle temptation, something fragile but powerful. He didn't want to frighten her or rush her, but he could feel it. A bond growing, something neither of them had planned. The minutes stretched. Aaron tried to lighten the mood. "Want to hear something?" She looked at him curiously. "What?" Aaron cleared his throat and began humming softly, the same tune he had hummed before. This time he added words, a simple song his grandmother had taught him. His voice was not perfect, but it carried feeling. The empty car seemed to listen as his song filled the air. Nira's eyes widened slightly. She sat very still, as though afraid the moment would vanish if she moved. When the song ended, she whispered, "Why? Does it feel like this?" "Like what?" Aaron asked. "Like something inside me is moving, warm but also heavy." Aaron smiled gently. "That's how music works. It's connected to love, to feelings." She placed her hand lightly over her chest, as if trying to understand the strange new sensation. "On my world, voices are only for truth. Not for this. But I feel it." "I feel what you sang," Aaron nodded. "That's the point. You don't just hear it, you feel it." Her silver eyes glimmered and she whispered, "It tempts me to want more." The words hung in the air, soft yet powerful. Aaron felt his breath catch. He didn't want to misunderstand, but he knew she wasn't talking about just the song. The car grew quieter, the air between them charged with something new. Aaron's heart pounded. He wanted to move closer, but he stayed still, letting her guide the moment. Nira slowly leaned her head back against the window, closing her eyes. "On my world, I would never say such things. But here, with you, it feels safe," Aaron spoke softly, his voice steady. "You don't have to hide here. Not with me." Her lips curved into the smallest smile and her eyes opened again. She looked at him, Not as a stranger now, but as someone she could trust. For a long time, they sat like that, staring into each other's eyes, the rest of the world fading away. The train was still stranded, but inside the deserted car, time seemed to move differently. Finally, Nira spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "Aaron, do you believe humans and my kind could ever—" "Love?" He didn't look away. "I believe love doesn't care about kind. It only cares about hearts." Her silver eyes shone, and in that moment something shifted. The distance between them felt smaller, the quiet temptation stronger. The night stretched on, but neither of them noticed the passing hours. They were lost in a world of gentle words and unspoken feelings, and though nothing more happened, no sudden gestures, no dramatic changes, something powerful had begun. It was the kind of beginning that didn't need to rush. The kind that whispered softly, tempting them toward something they didn't yet fully understand but both quietly wanted. The night grew deeper, stretching endlessly over the deserted land. The train still had not moved, though sometimes it gave small groans and clicks as if waking from sleep. The air inside the car was cool, filled with the hum of the weak lights. For Aaron and Nira, the outside world had almost stopped existing. Only this quiet car, half dark and empty, felt real. Nira sat with her silver eyes fixed on the window. The moonlight painted her face in soft glow, and for the first time since Aaron had seen her, she looked less like a visitor from another world, and more like someone simply lost in thought. Her long fingers traced the rim of the water bottle, not drinking but holding it as if the object itself reminded her of their small connection. Aaron watched her quietly. His mind was full yet calm. Hours ago, he would never have believed he could sit across from an alien girl and feel this kind of closeness, but now it seemed natural, almost necessary. He could feel it, the pull between them, fragile yet strong. After a long silence, Nira spoke. Her voice was low, carrying both hesitation and honesty. "The train will move soon." Aaron leaned back, surprised at the heaviness in her tone. "Maybe it's been hours already. Could be longer." She shook her head gently. "I hear the sound. The systems are waking. Soon they will call for passengers to return to their places. I must rejoin my group." The words struck Aaron like a quiet blow. Of course she had to return. She wasn't like him, just a traveler going home. She was part of something larger, a delegation, a responsibility. He had always known this moment would come, but knowing didn't make it easier. He tried to smile lightly. "Well, I'm glad we met, even if it's only for a night." Nira turned toward him. Her silver eyes studied him carefully, almost searching for something. "You say it as if it ends here." Aaron hesitated. His heart wanted to reach out to tell her he didn't want this to end. But he forced himself to stay calm. "Doesn't it? Once you rejoin your people, I don't know if we'll ever meet again." The words hung heavy in the air. Nira lowered her gaze, her hands tightening on the bottle. For a long moment she didn't speak. Then she whispered, "In my world, duty is everything. Choice is small. But here, with you, it feels different." Aaron leaned forward, his voice gentle. "What do you mean?" Her eyes lifted, shining faintly. "I feel as if I could choose. Not only what is expected, but what I want." Aaron's chest tightened. He didn't want to push her, but he also didn't want to let the moment slip away. "And what do you want, Nira?" The car grew silent again. Outside, the wind whispered across the open fields. The lights flickered once more, dimming before steadying. Nira's lips parted, but for a while no sound came. Then softly she said, "I want to stay." The words were so quiet Aaron almost thought he imagined them, but the look in her eyes told him it was real. He swallowed, his voice steady but warm. "Then stay, at least for now. No one is forcing you to leave." Nira's breath caught and she looked down as though the weight of her decision pressed heavily on her. "If I stay, it is against my duty. They will not understand." Aaron leaned closer, his voice full of care. "Maybe they won't, but it's your choice, Nira. You get to decide. That's what freedom is." Her silver eyes lifted again, full of conflict, yet also something brighter. A quiet spark. "Freedom," she whispered, as if testing the word. They sat in silence, the choice hanging between them. For Nira, it was more than staying in a train car. It was stepping away from everything she had been taught, everything expected of her. For Aaron, it was daring to hope that this connection, fragile but real, could last beyond a single night. The train gave a sudden jolt, the loud sound breaking the stillness. Lights flickered stronger now, and the faint rumble of engines spread through the car. Somewhere far ahead, a voice called out, announcing that passengers should return to the front cars. Neera's body stiffened. Her hands gripped the seat tightly. The call of duty was real now, no longer a thought but a demand. Aaron's heart raced, but he stayed calm. He leaned closer, speaking softly but firmly. You don't have to decide for the rest of your life right now. Just this moment. Do you want to walk away, or do you want to stay here with me? Neera turned her face toward him. The silver glow of her eyes reflected the lights, and her voice trembled slightly, but her words were clear. I want to stay. Relief and warmth spread through Aaron. He smiled softly, not triumphant but grateful. Then stay. The announcement repeated, the voice echoing faintly through the train, but Neera didn't move. She stayed in her seat, her gaze steady on Aaron. For the first time since meeting her, he saw no hesitation, no mask of formality, only choice, her own choice. Minutes passed. The train began to roll forward slowly, its wheels grinding against the tracks. The world outside shifted again, but inside the deserted car, time felt suspended. Neera leaned back against the window, her body relaxing as though a great weight had been lifted. Her voice was soft, almost like a sigh. I have never chosen for myself. It feels frightening, but also right. Aaron nodded, his voice quiet. That's what real choices feel like. Scary, but worth it. She looked at him, her silver eyes calm now. And you, Aaron? Why did you stay when others left this car earlier? He smiled faintly. I guess I was waiting. Maybe without knowing it, I was waiting for you. Her lips curved into a small, genuine smile. It was the clearest smile he had seen from her yet. Then perhaps, she said softly, I was waiting for you too. The train picked up speed, moving steadily into the night. But for Aaron and Neera, the destination didn't matter. What mattered was this moment, this choice to stay together, even when the world expected something different. They sat side by side in the quiet, two souls from different worlds, bound not by duty or order, but by a decision made freely. And though nothing had been promised, though the future was uncertain, the choice itself was powerful. For Neera, it was the first step into freedom. For Aaron, it was the beginning of something he had never dared hope for. The train carried them forward, but in their hearts they had already chosen a new path, one that began not with duty, but with desire to be near each other. The night outside rolled on, but inside the deserted car, two travelers shared something far greater than silence. It was the start of a story that neither of them could walk away from now. The train moved steadily into the night. The sound of the wheels on the tracks created a calm rhythm, like a heartbeat. The car was still almost empty, only Aaron and Neera sitting together. The world outside was dark, filled with stretches of silent land and scattered lights far away. Yet inside the car, something new was alive. An invisible bond born not from duty but from choice. Aaron leaned back, watching Neera as she gazed out the window. The moonlight touched her silver eyes, making them shine faintly. For a while, neither spoke. Words were not needed. Both of them felt the weight of what had just happened. Neera had chosen to stay. It wasn't a small decision. It was the first time she had broken from the path expected of her. And for Aaron, it was a moment he would never forget. After some time, Neera turned toward him. Her voice was soft, almost thoughtful. Do you ever wonder what happens when you walk away from the path given to you? Aaron smiled faintly. All the time. Life is full of paths. Some people follow the ones made by others. Some people make their own. I think both are hard, but making your own feels worth it. She tilted her head slightly, studying him. And is this your own path? Sitting here with me? Aaron met her gaze, calm but honest. Yes, it feels like it. Her lips curved into the faintest smile. It wasn't wide or bright, but it carried something true. She looked away again, resting her forehead lightly against the window. The train continued to move. Hours passed slowly, the night stretching on. At times the silence felt heavy, but it was not uncomfortable. They shared water, shared looks, and sometimes shared small stories. Aaron told her about his village, about running through the fields as a child, about climbing hills just to watch the stars. He spoke in simple words, but his eyes carried warmth as he remembered. Neera listened closely, her silver eyes fixed on him. For someone who came from far away, his simple life seemed new and fascinating. Your world is filled with open spaces, she said softly. It feels free, Aaron chuckled. Sometimes it feels too empty. But when I hear you say it like that, maybe I've taken it for granted. She nodded slowly, her fingers brushing the edge of the seat. Where I come from, everything is controlled. Every step planned. Even the skies are full of rules. I never thought of freedom as something real. But now, she paused, her voice lowering. Now it feels close.
The festival lights slowly faded into the night sky as the great lantern drifted farther and farther upward, becoming a tiny glow among the stars. The music of drums and flutes softened, and the crowd in the plaza began to scatter into smaller groups. Families carried their children. Traders closed their stalls, and laughter echoed down the streets. Aaron and Mira remained where they stood, letting the world move around them. For a long moment, they did not speak. It felt as if words might break the delicate thread that had formed between them. Instead, they simply breathed the same night air and watched the lanterns vanish into the heavens. Finally, Mira turned her face toward him. "The lanterns will return next year," she said softly, "but this night will not come again." Aaron understood. Festivals were made of moments, bright, fragile, and impossible to repeat in exactly the same way. "That's why it matters," he answered. "Because it only happens once." She smiled faintly. "And yet, I would not want it to end." They walked together through the quieter streets of the market. The stalls were closing now. The glowing lights dimmed to gentle embers. A few children chased the last floating lanterns, laughing as they reached for them. The air was cooler, carrying the scent of smoke from fading torches and the sweet remains of roasted fruit. As they reached the edge of the market, Mira slowed her steps. "Aaron," she began, her voice calm but thoughtful, "what happens now? Tomorrow, will you leave for another world? Or will you stay in this city for a time?" The question pressed on Aaron's heart. He had lived most of his life moving from one star system to another. His work as a trader and helper on ships meant he never stayed in one place for long. He had no true home, only brief stops, brief faces, brief stories. But tonight felt different. Myra's presence made the idea of leaving heavy in a way he had never felt before. "I don't know," he admitted honestly. "I came here to see the lanterns and to rest for a while. I didn't expect," he paused, searching for the right words. "I didn't expect to feel like I belonged." Mira looked at him quietly, her silver hair catching the glow of a fading lantern. "Perhaps belonging is not found. Perhaps it is made." Her words stayed with him as they reached a small stone bridge over a narrow river. The water reflected the lantern light like scattered stars. They leaned on the railing, the night calm around them. Aaron turned to her. "Do you ever dream of leaving this place? Of seeing other worlds?" Mira rested her chin lightly on her hand. "When I was younger, yes. I thought other stars would hold more wonders than my own city. But as I grew, I realized every place has its own wonders, some too small to notice until you stay long enough. That is why I chose to remain. The lantern market, the people, the stories, they are my roots." Aaron nodded slowly. He had no roots, and perhaps that was why her words touched him so deeply. She had found her place in the world, while he had spent years drifting. "Would you ever travel?" he asked softly. She lifted her eyes to his, steady and clear. "I would, but only if I traveled with someone I trusted. Someone who would not see me as a burden, but as a companion." The meaning in her words was clear. His breath caught and his heart quickened. "Mira," she looked away for a moment, her hands clasped together on the railing. "Aaron, I cannot promise what the future will bring, but I know this. When I stood beside you tonight, when our wishes met under the lantern, I felt something true. I do not want it to end with only this night." Her voice trembled slightly, not with fear, but with hope. Aaron's chest filled with warmth. He reached out, not with boldness, but with gentle courage, and placed his hand lightly over hers. She did not pull away. Instead, her fingers relaxed under his touch. "I feel the same," he said quietly. "I've walked through countless cities, across endless stars, and never felt what I felt tonight. If you wish it, I will stay. Or," If you wish it, I will take you with me when I go. Whatever path we choose, I want to walk it with you." The river below whispered softly, carrying a reflection of the last lanterns into the distance. Mira turned back to him, her eyes shining. Then perhaps the lantern did hear us after all. They stood together in silence, their hands joined as the night deepened. The next morning, the city woke slowly from the festival. The stalls reopened with quieter energy, and children played with scraps of paper lanterns left behind. The air was lighter, filled with the sense of new beginnings. Aaron and Mira met again in the marketplace, though now it looked different, less crowded, less bright. Without the festival, it was simply a place of daily life. Yet, for Aaron, it felt just as meaningful. Mira handed him a small object wrapped in cloth. "For you," she said. He opened it and found a hand-painted lantern, small enough to fit in his palm. The design showed a river under a starry sky, with two paths drawn side by side, winding toward the horizon. "It is a traveler's lantern," she explained. "It reminds the one who carries it that light can guide them home, no matter how far they go." Aaron held it carefully, his voice soft. "This is more than a gift. It's a promise, isn't it?" Mira nodded gently. "Yes." He smiled, the weight of loneliness lifting from him in a way he had not thought possible. For once, the road ahead did not look endless or empty. It looked shared. That evening, they sat together on the same stone bridge where they had spoken the night before. The Lantern Festival was over, but the river still carried quiet light, and the city hummed with life. Aaron looked out at the horizon. "So, Mira, what should our first step be? Stay here for a while, or begin a journey?" Mira tilted her head, thoughtful. "Perhaps both. Stay long enough to know what is ours here, then journey far enough to know what we can share with the stars." Her answer made him laugh softly, not because it was amusing, but because it was wise. "Then it's decided." The sky above was darker now, but one star shone brighter than the rest. Aaron lifted the small lantern she had given him, letting its glow join the starlight. Mira leaned closer, her shoulder brushing his lightly. Together, they sat in the gentle night, two paths joined not by chance but by choice. The lantern market will return each year, glowing with stories and dreams. But for Aaron and Mira, its light had already done its greatest work. It had kindled a bond strong enough to guide them beyond one night, beyond one city, beyond one world. And in that bond, they found not just love, but a home in each other.